Apocalypse, beginning of the end, 2024, a logical review. Also, there are spoilers. If you have not seen this movie, this review will talk about what happens in the movie extensively. Spain did a great job with this film. The Ukrainian representation was appreciated. Was not expecting a cat movie. The contagion was through contact with blood. That's how they became the running zombies. And think about how poorly we did with the contagion through breathing other people's breaths. When most things shut down, we have one job: a few weeks without breathing other people's air. What did we learn? In the car scene, the accident scene, it was obvious that being parked in the middle of traffic would cause another crash. It was so obvious seeing that coming. After seeing solar panels and battery backups for decades, how does every building not have this? That was a big savior for the main character. The boat scene early on was kind of a dead giveaway of what might happen later in the film. It didn't feel like it flowed naturally with the story. And maybe if his house was closer to the marina, it might make more sense. So you kind of know that there's going to be some sort of scene later where he's trying to get to the boat. And when the main character was stuck in traffic, why didn't he fully pull off the road? He pulled into the shoulder in between the on-ramp and the freeway, and he didn't completely pull off the road, which is kind of an a-hole move. There was room for him to do it. He just left his car there. Why didn't he go to the boat sooner? The sister told him to stay in place, but that doesn't mean he couldn't have stayed in place at the marina, at his boat. He could have just taken his boat, gone offshore, and anchored somewhere. So that was kind of odd that he had a boat and he's like, nah, I'm just going to stay in my house. At least he had his solar power. Gabriella, the grandmother, was a great example of the mindset leading to calling it quits. She was in a mindset from how her family behaved towards her. So she had an idea of what the effect would have been of having him have to care for her if she were to go with him. It was a pretty epic dirt bike scenario when he was trying to get to the boat. But why were there so many that decided a tent or an RV in the woods was better than in a house? And if that was their home already, why wouldn't they go on the bus or find a more secure location? I feel like the less questions I have when watching a movie is the better, and this movie didn't score great in that sense. During the bike chase scene, why did he take his helmet off after the crash? And then, even though he took it off, why did he leave it off? Is this only for theatrical purposes? Because it's just such a poor idea in a zombie movie to take off any sort of coverage when you're out in the open. The pacing of the movie seems slow, especially as the movie went on, up until the end, at least. The non-action scenes, I should say, felt slow. I don't know if this is just... I guess it's just the pacing. It had been different. Oh, and then when he found the boat, or the dinghy, why didn't he check for fuel before leaving? Or after he left, why didn't he have a plan to stay near shore or go to a location where he could get more fuel? That seemed short-sighted, but I guess that's the only way they could have the plot, so that he met with the larger boat. And then below deck, when there was the confrontation and there was the 1v1 with the Ukrainian, why didn't the main character help the Ukrainian? That was weird that he just left him, the 1v1. And then when he made it back to land and he's looking at cars and they're all locked, why didn't he just break into one of the cars? He had already broken into so many houses, so it was odd that he wouldn't have just broken into one of the cars. But I guess they had to set up the plot so that he had to find the right car, I guess. And wouldn't this be a great situation for having the long-range mesh-tastic? So in addition to the spear gun, why didn't he have a machete or a spear, a secondary weapon? I mean, this is a case where you need it. It's not if you might need it, you will need it. If you only have one shot in a spear gun, or, I think he might have had 3 tops or 4, you're going to run out if you aren't reclaiming those spears. So it seemed odd that he didn't have a secondary weapon. The wheel cage at the end was a great idea, tying them together, but not having cover over the top was just a huge flaw. You would think even if they could have used another one of those pages and thrown it on top and tied it down, a huge flaw of like leaving the top open. Obviously, these are runners and they can climb or they can pile up. The ending of the film was a good stopping point. They were really reasonable. They didn't leave you hanging in like a major way. And that's all the logical points that I took notes of, where it just seemed odd in the writing to have these sort of situations. Like I mentioned, when you watch a great film, I feel like you don't have sort of obvious questions like this into the logics. But there you go. Would I recommend watching this movie? Absolutely. It was worth the watch. The dubbed version might be a little easier for people who don't want to read subtitles or who don't understand Spanish. It was a decent zombie movie if you're into runners. If anyone has any other film recommendations, I would love to hear them.